everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I am Philip Toledo coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. Whether this is your first time or you're a regular viewer, we're so glad that you've joined us. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
A Canadian airline hopes that free COVID-19 insurance will induce more people to book vacations.
EJ Gonzalez in Alexandria, Virginia.
Virginia not lifting restrictions for Labor Day weekend.
Joy-Ann Andres in Uniondale, New York.
New York City schools delay reopening with new deal to prevent union strike.
Then Don Omar Cuevas in Little Rock reports about Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson announcing grants for small businesses. Maricar Borja in North Hills, California.
Los Angeles remembers thousands of residents lost due to coronavirus with a public memorial.
And Macy Membrere in Sacramento reports about a color code system created to identify counties' risk levels to COVID-19. Plus, we asked students across the country about what, in their opinion, makes a great teacher. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And then we'll have a conversation with our Eagle News team about helpful advice their teacher once gave them. But first, an overview of how COVID-19 looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time today, the first day of September 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 25,700,000. The top three on the list of countries with recorded cases, the United States with more than 6 million, Brazil close to 4 million, and India at 3.6 million. Sadly, this virus has already taken more than 852,000 lives. The top three countries with the most deaths related to COVID-19 are, once again, the United States with more than 184,000, Brazil 121,000, and India more than 65,000. Our coverage begins now. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador presents the second annual report of his mandate, in which he confirmed an increase in extortion and homicide by organized crime groups and assured that the country's health system will emerge stronger from the coronavirus pandemic. Let's take a look.
Solo han aumentado dos delitos, homicidio doloso y extorsión, en 7.9% y 12.7% respectivamente, vinculados estos delitos fundamentalmente a la llamada delincuencia organizada. Es indudable que saldremos de la pandemia con un mejor sistema de salud, pero es un timbre de orgullo poder decir que ayudamos por medio de los programas sociales a 23 millones de familias.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump, on a visit to protest-hit Kenosha, Wisconsin, says that recent anti-police demonstrations in the city were acts of, quote, domestic terror committed by violent mobs. Trump says these are not acts of peaceful protest, but really domestic terror, describing multiple nights of angry demonstrations last week after a white police officer in Kenosha shot a black man in the back at close range.
Violent mobs demolished or damaged at least 25 businesses, burned down public buildings, and threw bricks at police officers, which your police officers won't stand for, and they didn't stand for it. These are not acts of peaceful protest, but really domestic terror.
We come back. We'll have updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Edmonton, Alberta, and Alexandria, Virginia. You're watching Eagle News America. Please stay with us.
Hello there, I'm Alfred, and I'm a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, batch of 2008 in New Era University. I'm currently working as an operations analyst in Autodesk.
Hi, I'm Earl Escanio, and I graduated with Bachelor of Science major in Computer Science in 2010. I am a consultant at Trinity Consulting LLC.
Hi, I'm Ivy Nakatagal, Bachelor's in Computer Science graduate, year 2010. I am currently working as a cybersecurity analyst in one of the largest telco here in New Zealand, Coast Park, NZ.
I'm Frank David Riego, a BS Computer Science graduate here in 2015. As a legal analyst, I am tasked to read U.S. cases, specifically civil torts cases.
I am Melanie Rico Hermosity, a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science graduate, year 2006.
I'm currently a software quality assurance engineer at FBI Systems here in Maryland, United States.
I'm Renzo Cruz. I'm a graduate of BS Computer Science, year 2012. I'm currently working abroad, and I'm working as a senior cybersecurity consultant who specializes in digital forensics and incident response. And I am part of a national security in one of the countries here in the Middle East.
I am inviting everyone to study at New Era University. To legit, to great.
Be brilliant in the new era.
Study now at New Era University.
Excellence,
Discipline,
Service to humanity.
Sino kaya ang magsashine sa kantahan? At sino din ang uuwing luhaan? Ang sigurado, magiging bahagi ako nito bilang hurado sa singing category. Ako po si Vina Morales. Kita-kits tayo sa pinakabago at pinakamalaking talent competition on Philippine TV. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Only here on Net 25.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. A Canadian airline hopes a free COVID-19 insurance will induce more people to book vacations. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us tonight. Thomas.
Good evening, Philip. As you know, airlines around the world, they've fallen on hard times. They're suffering as the pandemic continues to discourage people from traveling. Well, a Canadian airline has come up with a promotion that it hopes will induce people to travel to warm vacation spots this winter. Well, you know Canadians, we love to get out of the ice and snow up here, if even only for a week. So Air Canada says it's now going to give away free COVID-19 travel insurance to people who book vacations to selected destinations in sunny places like Mexico and the Caribbean. People who become infected with COVID-19 would be able to claim emergency medical bills, as well as quarantine accommodation expenses. Repatriation is covered should a person die if they're abroad. Non-COVID medical expenses would be covered as well. The insurance covers up to about $100,000 per person per trip. The coverage, underwritten by German insurance giant Allianz Global Assistance. Incidentally, though, American destinations, including Hawaii, you know, I might have gone to Hawaii this winter, they're not covered. Just the selected destinations in Mexico and the Caribbean. Now, Nino Montañez of Air Canada Vacations says the insurance allows customers to turn their travel dreams into reality. Well, hopefully, nobody will have to actually use that coverage, or those travel dreams could end in a nightmare. And a dose of reality here, the Canadian government still advising people to avoid non-essential foreign trips. So is free COVID-19 insurance enough of an incentive to get you to travel again? Well, whether you travel or stay at home, I wish you all good health. Take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Thomas. So, just like you just mentioned the what is it, the $100,000, the $1 million question. Well, what's the reaction of your fellow Canadians in your community? Are they talking about this? Is it going to encourage them to travel?
Hard to say. Most people here are still pretty fearful of that second wave. A lot of people here in my province, especially because of the effect of the pandemic on the economy, they simply don't have the money to travel. The airlines they're desperate to do anything to get people in those seats. The federal government here has offered no additional help for the airline industry or the travel industry. So really, they're just trying this, hoping that this might induce people to book that winter vacation.
Absolutely, and that was actually going to be my next question, because I know here in the United States, back in March, the CARES Act did a lot, several $1 billion to the airline industry. But absent that in Canada, what about you, Tom? Are you planning to help the airlines recover with any of your vacation plans?
No, not this year. I don't think so. It's still too risky. It's still too risky to travel. Normally, we go to the Philippines every 2 years. That's been put on hold for now, because again, do you want to spend that many hours on an airplane with somebody who may or may not have the virus, may or may not be carrying it, and that air just keeps recirculating? You're going to be breathing that same air for several hours. I mean, even to Hawaii, it's only a 5-hour trip from here. I don't think I'd want to sit on an airplane for 5 hours, much less the 14 hours it would take for us to get from Vancouver to Manila.
Absolutely, Thomas. Well, regardless of whether or not you take a vacation, I hope you stay safe, and we'll hear more from you here at the end of the broadcast.
I guess we're just going to be suffering through the ice and snow this winter.
Right. Well, maybe you can do some snow fishing. I heard that's fun.
Ice fishing, yes. We'll try that.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Take care.
Thank you.
Now, in Virginia, the state is not lifting its pandemic restrictions for Labor Day weekend. In Alexandria, Eagle News correspondent EJ Gonzalez reports.
Thanks, Philip. Hello, everyone, and happy September to all. Yep, just like that, another month has passed, and summer is coming to a close. We've been living in this pandemic for over 5 months and almost 2 full seasons. This weekend, the U.S. will be observing Labor Day. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam mentioned that there will not be any easing of restrictions for the upcoming holiday. Before we get into the reason as to why, here's a quick look at the numbers for Virginia. According to the Virginia Department of Health, the percent positivity rate for the state as a whole has been stagnant, hovering at around 7%. The number of tests being performed daily is at 15,000 to 20,000. Here in the Northern Virginia area, the percent positivity rate is hovering at 6%. Virginia hasn't seen any recent spikes in positive cases, and the 7-day moving average is showing a downward trend. Now back to our main story on the decision Governor Northam has made for this upcoming long weekend. Northam stated that there will not be any changes when it comes to the restrictions Virginia has made. The statistical trends based off of previous holiday weekends during this pandemic has prompted his decision. Here's what the governor had to say.
So we're not going to make any changes before Labor Day. I want to be clear the reason why, and I know there's a lot of folks want to get things back open on Labor Day, but we need to think back to Memorial Day and July the 4th. We saw surges in the week to 2 weeks following those holidays around the country and certainly also here in Virginia. And we don't want to repeat that as the summer draws to a close. So if we can avoid these same surges after Labor Day, then we'll have a running start as we go into the fall. I believe this, our health team believes this, and Dr. Fauci made the same point yesterday on a call with the nation's governors. With a holiday weekend coming up, with back to school coming in different forms, and with colleges returning, now is the time to double down on what we know is working so we can set ourselves up for success this fall. If the numbers continue to trend in a good direction, and if there's evidence that people are following the safety guidelines over the holiday weekend, we will be able to move Eastern Virginia in line with the rest of the state soon after Labor Day.
Also, the Virginia Department of Health issued a precaution to prevent COVID-19 outbreaks in churches and faith-based settings. This provision comes from the city of Marion, where there have been multiple outbreaks in houses of worship, including one recording more than 40 associated cases. The VDH advises that whenever possible, faith communities should hold gatherings outside rather than inside. Everyone should maintain 6 feet of distancing and increase the distance to 10 feet if there's singing or shouting, and everyone should wear face coverings at all times. Worshippers should also avoid passing objects between members of the congregation. As Governor Northam stated, we are still very much in this pandemic, and he foresees that we would be continuing on with this situation through till next year. He urges all of us to be vigilant in our efforts of adhering to the safety guidelines set forth by the CDC. In Alexandria, Virginia, EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, EJ. Now, I know that there's restrictions, but it is a holiday weekend coming up there in your area. Do you have any plans for Labor Day?
Well, Labor Day is known to have a lot of good sales, so I may do some online shopping and hunt for some good deals. But I mean, as of right now, honestly, I don't have anything planned, so probably just going to be staying home. But if our families invite us over, we always make sure to do practice social distancing while eating, and we keep our mask on when we're done. Like I said earlier, this pandemic, it's been going on for over 5 months now, and with that amount of time, it's hard to keep distance from our parents and loved ones, right? If this pandemic has taught us anything, it's to appreciate the time we spend with our loved ones. I think it's important that we make an effort to be able to see them, but of course, practice proper safety measurements, not only for ourselves, but especially for our loved ones.
Absolutely, and just to follow up on that, we have been going through this for many months, and one thing that I've noticed, just kind of going out and around here in Atlanta is things are starting to feel like people are, tired of the whole thing. People are going out. I'm noticing, where there used to be one-way signs in the aisles in the grocery store, now it's just kind of do what you want.
Right.
How about there in Virginia with these restrictions in place? Do you feel like people are starting to let up a little bit, or are they still holding fast?
Nah, I definitely think that they are. Like you said, even in our grocery stores, they do have those arrows, but no one seems to be really paying attention to it. It seems very normal now, though. Like a lot of people are going out with their mask on. Earlier today, I went to the golf range, and there was a lot of people like out there like swinging. So it seemed like everybody's just really getting used to the new normal. But of course, everyone's still practicing, those safety guidelines. And I think it's super important that if you do go out, you definitely wear your mask at all times. It's definitely just to keep everybody else around you safe.
Absolutely. Those are good points, EJ. Well, thank you so much for your report, and we'll catch up with you here at the end of the broadcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Philip.
Thank you. Now, everyone, coming up, we'll have updates from our correspondents in Uniondale, New York, Little Rock, Arkansas, and North Hills and Sacramento, California. Please stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Eagle News.
The search for the best continues. Tagi sa Nanggaling Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. Kung ikaw ay 21 to 59 years old at may angking galing sa pagsayaw, mapasolo, duo o grupo man, magpadala na ng audition entry. Narito ang mga guidelines. Para makapagpasa ng entry sa dancing category, contact Shing at 0995-880-8004. Ito na ang pagkakataon mo para maging tagisan ng galing grand winner at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, i-like ang Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. Kaya sali na!
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. Now, we'll turn our attention to the state of New York, and where New York City schools are delaying reopening with a new deal to prevent a union strike. In Uniondale, we have Eagle News correspondent Joy Ann Andres with the details.
Hi, Philip. In today's briefing with Mayor Bill de Blasio, he said a potential union strike in New York City was prevented. This would have been considered the first strike led by teachers in 45 years. The mutual decision was made earlier today between the city and the United Federation of Teachers in a new school reopening deal. Instead of opening on September 10th, schools will now be opening on September 21st. Staff will return to prepare on Tuesday, September 8th. Remote learning will begin on Wednesday, September 16th with a 3-day transitional period. And on Monday, September 21st, blended learning will begin. With more than 1.1 million students and at 1,700 school buildings, New York City is the nation's largest public school district. Out of the 10 largest districts in America, it is the only one that is beginning the academic year with a blended approach. Mayor de Blasio said, "One of the things we've affirmed in these discussions is nothing replaces in-person learning. It's a very complex moment in history, to say the least. We have a common deep concern for this city. We also believe profoundly in the New York City public schools and the meaning of public education." Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza said, "So many things about this year will be new, but the fundamentals remain the same. The majority of our students plan to return to buildings. Students will learn best in person with a caring teacher as often as possible, and we will lead with health and safety every step of the way." In order to support the children during this new approach, more than 324,000 iPads have been distributed to students across the city. As for safety, more than 1,300 school buildings have already been inspected, with 247 accepted outdoor learning applications. Electrostatic cleaning, along with proper social distancing and mask mandates, will be applied. There are now over 200 testing locations in the city, many near public schools. Mobile testing vans and tents will be available every month in every school. Once in-person begins, medical monitoring will take place every month at each school and random COVID testing of both adults and students. The U of T president, Michael Mulgrew, endorsed this agreement at the briefing and proudly said that New York City's public school system has the most aggressive policies and greatest safeguards of any school system in the United States of America. The current citywide infection rate is 1.3%. With health and safety leading the reopening plans, the city will not open if the rate exceeds 3%. In Uniondale, New York, Joy Ann Andres, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Joy Ann. Now, I'm just curious, what is your experience with online learning?
So I was taking classes during the peak of the pandemic, and it was pretty tough being glued to a screen all day. I've started new classes for the fall semester, and I feel more confident now that we've acclimated to this new normal with technology and a pandemic. And although we're faced with a lot of uncertainty and emotions literally every day, it's kind of nice learning and figuring things out together.
So do you have any tips for those that are about to start the school year again? I know across the country many students are going to be virtual. What would you say are the top, one or two things that help you be successful with your online learning experience?
Definitely creating a designated study space. If you have a desk, I've been using curtains, doing makeshift walls in my room, just so it feels like, I don't know, a cubicle at the library. That's one of the habits that I picked up this semester. And another one is definitely fixing your sleep schedule. The break between the semesters was kind of lengthy, and my sleep schedule was pretty messed up. So I took the advantage of taking a week or two before school started to fix that before it was another struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point too, because I know, at least from when I was in school, that was the one important thing that I learned was sleep is so important, not just for your studies, right, but for your overall health as we're going through the pandemic. We need to make sure that we take care of ourselves. So thank you so much for that report and the follow-up, Joanne, and we'll see you at the end of our broadcast tonight. Thanks. Now in Arkansas, Governor Asa Hutchinson announces grants for small businesses. In Little Rock, Don Omar Cuevas has the details.
Thank you for having me, Anna, and hello from Little Rock. Here in Arkansas, COVID-19 cases are now over 60,000, with nearly 54,000 recoveries and almost 800 deaths. In his most recent weekly address, Governor Asa Hutchinson has stated that the unemployment rate in Arkansas has improved, going from 10.8% when the pandemic began to affect the economy to 7.1% in July. The governor has also announced that grants by Main Street Arkansas and the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program have been launched to support small businesses in the state that were negatively affected by the pandemic. Support for these grants came from the Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, which doubled the funding for its annual downtown revitalization grants. These grants range from $3,000 to $25,000. In the words of Governor Hutchinson himself, our small towns and the owners who do business there are a link to our history and a reminder of where we came from. They are the building blocks of our economy. Main Street Arkansas and the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program are standing with them to secure the future. In other news, the Arkansas Department of Health has updated the legislation regarding the wearing of masks during the pandemic. This new directive, which works in conjunction with Executive Order 20-43, no longer allows masks with valves. It also strongly discourages the use of bandanas and single-layer neck gaiters. It would be best to stick to surgical masks, N95 masks, or even a cloth mask. Always remember to stay safe, healthy, and socially distanced wherever you are. Here in Little Rock, Arkansas, Don Omar Cuevas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you for that report. Now in Los Angeles, they're remembering thousands of residents who lost their lives to the coronavirus with a public memorial. Eagle News correspondent Maricar Borja in North Hills has the report.
Thank you, Philip. A public memorial was held in front of the Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration, previously known as the Los Angeles County Hall of Administration, to pay tribute to the more than 5,700 Los Angeles residents lost due to the coronavirus. The event was organized by several board coalition groups that includes the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, or LAANE for short, and the United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 770, or also called the UFCW 770. Wooden stands that supported floral arrangements of roses reflecting the approximate number of lives lost to COVID-19, as well as flowers and photos, reflected the great devastation caused by the virus. Organizers rallied for the support of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for the public health councils in workplaces to protect workers and prevent the virus from spreading in the community. According to the Los Angeles Public Health Department, the county has made significant progress in the past few weeks, as shown by the percentage of positive tests, with a lower number indicating a slowing in the transmission of the virus. The 7-day positivity rate for Los Angeles County is now at 4.7%, which is 45% less than a month ago at 8.6%. The daily hospitalizations have also decreased by almost half, from around 2,220 last month to 1,043 just reported yesterday. The state of California is currently using a colored tiered blueprint in response to COVID-19 called Blueprint for a Safer Economy, which is also the basis in reopening various sectors of the economy and businesses in the different counties. Los Angeles County remains at the top purple tier, or Tier 1, of widespread county risk level due to the number of daily new cases per 100,000 population. The county has 13.1 new cases per 100,000 people, which is almost double the initial number required to be in this tier. Although the 7-day positivity rate in daily hospitalizations has decreased for Los Angeles, the county still needs to reduce the transmission rate of the virus in the number of new cases per 100,000 residents, so businesses and schools can reopen, as well as many other activities that Angelenos have missed participating in since the onset of this pandemic. In North Hills, California, Maricar Borja, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Maricar. Now, you reported that Los Angeles County is at the Tier 1, or the top purple tier there in California. Can you talk a little bit, how many tiers are there, and what is the criteria for each one?
So California's Blueprint for a Safer Economy, which has 4 tiers, was introduced by the state just last Friday to guide the reopening of businesses, schools, and other activities within the different counties. All 58 counties in the state are classified in one of the 4 color-coded tiers based on the county's rate of new cases and positivity. The top tier is, of course, purple, and the county risk level is widespread. Counties in this tier have more than 7 daily new cases per 100,000 population and more than 8% positive tests. Most non-essential indoor businesses remain closed. The second tier is red, with county risk level at substantial. Counties in this tier have between 4 to 7 daily new cases per 100,000 population and between 5 to 8% positive tests. Some non-essential indoor businesses remain closed. The third tier is orange, with county risk level at moderate. Counties in this tier have between 1 to 3.9 daily new cases per 100,000 population and between 2 to 4.9% positive tests. Certain indoor businesses can open with certain modifications. The fourth tier is yellow, with county risk level at minimal. Counties in this tier have less than 1 daily new case per 100,000 population and less than 2% positive tests. Many indoor businesses can open with modifications as well. If you have a county like Los Angeles that falls in 2 different tiers because their number of new cases per 100,000 population is at 13.1, which classifies them at the higher Tier 1, but their positivity rate is at 4.7%, which classifies them at the lower Tier 3, then according to state guidelines, the county stays in the stricter tier. So LA County remains on Tier 1, or the purple-coded tier.
So that you bring up a good point. Are there any areas of the state where they're in one of those lower 2 tiers?
I'm not necessarily sure on that yet, but I will. We'll look into that.
No, absolutely. I know that the guidelines just came out on Friday, so I'm sure, across the state, several people are trying to figure out where they are in each individual situation. So thank you so much for that. And then I guess, but before we move on to the next report, with that, the LA County is in the top tier. Have you found yourself taking any different precautions, or what types of things are you doing to help, in your own personal life, stay safe and keep those around you safe? What are you doing?
Definitely staying at home most of the time. With school starting already, me and my sister have just been doing online school and just making sure that we're taking the precautions that is being given to us. Even if we do go outside for like grocery shopping and such, we're making sure that we have our mask and such, and sometimes even gloves just in case. And if we buy something, we make sure to always clean it and do all these safety precautions when we do come home.
Absolutely. That's part of the new normal that all of us are facing. Well, thank you so much for your report, and we will be catching up with you here at the end of the broadcast in just a few minutes. Thanks, Mirikar. Now we'll go to Northern California, where we learn more about the color code system used to identify risk levels for COVID-19. In Sacramento, Macy Membreri reports.
Thank you. In California, the Blueprint for a Safer Economy has started a color code system to represent a county's risk level when it comes to COVID-19. On the website covid19.ca.gov, people have the ability to see where their county stands on this color system, as well as what businesses or activities are also permitted. There are 4 colors to this system, starting with yellow, which represents minimal risk. It then moves up to orange for moderate risk, red for substantial risk, and the top of the tier is purple for widespread risk. The majority of California counties are currently at the purple level, which is further identified as having many non-essential indoor operations as closed. A county will remain on the purple widespread level if it has a positivity rate of higher than 8%, along with other classifications. A concern often addressed during the recent press briefings by Governor Newsom is schools and when they can reopen for in-person learning. Now, based on the blueprint, schools in the purple tier will not be allowed to reopen, but schools who have been on the red substantial tier for 2 weeks can reopen while following the guidelines provided. There are exemptions for schools in the purple tier that can reopen only if they have received a waiver from their local health department. In a recent conference with the California Health and Human Services Secretary, Dr. Mark Galley, he had a message for Californians as they prepared for the upcoming Labor Day weekend. Let's listen.
As we move forward into another holiday weekend and we look back at the summer and we see some of the critical moments that we had as a state to really maintain and reduce transmission, I think about Labor Day and I think about our lifting up our laborers across the state and people who are part of our essential workforce and our workforce in general. And what more can we do to celebrate work, but to make sure that workers are protected? And wearing that mask, making sure that as we gather potentially with some people outside of our household, that we really do all of the things that Dr. Pan reminded us of to keep it small and keep it outside. So wear your mask, the physical distance of 6 feet, the washing your hands, and being cognizant as we enter the fall and winter and many of the common viruses that cause the common cold start to come alive a bit more, that if you have symptoms that look like the common cold, often those are the same ones that we see with COVID. Please stay home. Please make sure that you're keeping your distance from those who aren't sick, that you haven't been around, so we reduce transmission and we don't see the surges that we saw over the summer in cases. Our standard reminder, we appreciate all 40 million Californians really working together to keep our transmission numbers coming down, to protect our hospitals as we prepare for the fall and winter.
In Sacramento, California, Macy Membreri, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Macy, for that report. And as we just heard in those previous 2 reports, states across the country are trying to figure out the right way to reopen in the middle of this pandemic. And one of the key focus areas is school. as many students are getting ready to go back to school or just started, let's find out from the students across the country what they think makes a great teacher. That's coming up next. Eagle News America will return shortly.
Mula sa libu-libong nangarap at nagpakita ng galing, iisa lang ang nagtagumpay at hinirang na TNG's first grand winner. Ngunit hindi dyan nagtatapos ang pagpapakita nila ng gilas. Sa September 5 at 6 ay muli nating samahan ang ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang lahat ng yan dito sa mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on TV and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2! Dito lang sa Net25.
Do you want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@neu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@neu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. Now, school has resumed or is about to in most states. And whether it's all virtual, hybrid, or in person, there's one constant in this equation: students and teachers. Tonight, we asked students from across the country for their opinion on what makes a great teacher. Let's take a look.
In my opinion, what makes a good teacher is that they want their students to surpass them in terms of skill.
What makes a good teacher is that he or she can teach you hard life skills.
Great teachers are patient, caring, and they also make sure that their students are learning, and they can also be fun at times.
One thing that makes a great teacher is that they can help you in school and math problems and guide you, and they tell you to never give up.
What makes a great teacher? For me, I would like a teacher who is patient with her students. I want the teacher to be funny and stays positive even if students make mistakes. Lastly, the teacher should be able to build my confidence and appreciate my work.
For me, what makes a great teacher is someone who is funny,
nice, and patient.
For me, what makes a great teacher is a teacher who genuinely wants to help a kid out when they need help.
A great teacher makes learning fun by doing different activities for each subject that I do, and they help me understand the things that I have trouble on. A great teacher takes us on field trips, does fun math games and learning games, and helps us when we need help and when it's hard.
Great teachers are strong communicators. They listen well to their students, focus on collaborations. They are adaptable, also engaging, as well as enthusiastic and warm.
I think a good teacher is kind, respects children's opinions, helps overcome difficulties, is patient, encouraging, and is a good listener.
Great teachers put students first. Great teachers value students and build their confidence.
My teacher's name is Miss Tawdry. She always cares about us. She always reads to us. Also great stories too. I love her so much. She's the best teacher ever. She always teaches us how to read, do math, write, and she's also very protective of our class.
So for me, a good teacher would be someone who knows how to communicate clearly and differently. For me, learning has always been a little difficult, and the fact that a teacher could take the time to explain things in multiple ways has truly helped me and makes me come a long way in the way that I teach and lead other people in my life.
What makes a great teacher? In my opinion, a great teacher is someone who makes sure they establish strong relationships with each and every one of their students to show that they truly care about you. They will do everything and anything in their power to make sure that you succeed. They will stay after class or just talk to you if you have a bad day, making sure that you're always performing at the best of your capabilities so that you can become the best student possible. This is my opinion on what I think a great teacher is.
One thing that makes teachers great are that they will help you succeed and make learning fun. One way they can help you succeed is even if it's hard to learn, they will help you through it. Great teachers never give up on their students, and we shouldn't give up on them either.
So as we heard from those students all across the country, there's one common denominator, at least that I noticed, is that they mentioned something about how their teachers help them through whatever it is, through their learning experience. So before we go, let's have a conversation with our Eagle News team here about teachers that were great to them, teachers they can't forget, and maybe a helpful quote or something that their teacher once said. How about Tom? Let's start with you. What's a helpful quote from your teacher that you can't forget?
Well, basically, I had a teacher back in grade 5, which was about 5 decades ago for me. Anyway, she taught us that language was powerful. And then she backed it up with an explanation that if you're well-spoken and you have a good vocabulary, you can command respect with that. She also followed it up with the statement that profanity is just a cover-up for a bad vocabulary, and that always stuck with me. Was to develop a good vocabulary, to be well-spoken, including correct pronunciation.
Those are all good tips, especially in what we're doing right now, aren't they?
Well, yeah, for me it paid off in terms of a career, but basically anybody in any career, if you are well-spoken and have a good command of the language, as I used to say, you can know absolutely nothing, and people will think you're a genius.
That's a good point. What about Joyanne? Finish the statement. My teacher once said...
Hi, Philip. So my teacher once said that every day that you show up, you are one day closer to your end goal. And this was actually in college. As you grow up, you become more independent as a student, as an individual. And ever since I heard my professor say that, it continues to remind me to just keep going, and I apply it to everything I do.
That's a good point. And when you say you apply it to everything that you do, what's some examples of different ways that that's manifested itself outside of the classroom?
So when it comes to, I guess, your relationships with other people, especially in this pandemic, we face a lot of problems. We faced a lot of problems in these past months, especially. And although we can't physically show up, you can still emotionally show up for others, especially when they're looking for someone to talk to, someone to lean on. So that's definitely been something that I have been applying to outside of the classroom, of course.
Absolutely, and that's a good point, because for many people, the teachers, especially at some of the young grades, the teachers are the first ones that show them that care and that support. So that's very good and very helpful advice that your teacher gave you. Let's look in California, Maricar. What's something that a teacher once told you that you can't forget?
Hi, Philip. So my teacher once said to work smarter, not harder. Now, that might be a little bit aggressive, but that's something I've taken away after I graduated high school. This came from my calculus teacher, actually. So with that approach in mind, you could definitely use that in any type of mathematical equation subject to, in the use of simplification, work smarter, not harder, but you can also apply that philosophy to problem solving in daily life. So how am I going to approach this issue or problem by not working harder but working smarter, and finding ways to make it easier for you but to get through the situation or issue that you have.
Absolutely. It goes back to, I can't remember the exact saying, but something about you can have a lot of activity but not progress anywhere. So that's a very good advice that you received. EJ, how about you there in Virginia? What's something helpful that your teacher once told you?
So for my teacher, they always told me, EJ, pay attention to detail. So I actually studied visual communications and digital media arts. So it had a lot to do with arts. So when it comes to designing anything, one of the most important things they told us is to pay attention to detail. Whether you're looking at somebody else's design and interpreting that, you have to definitely pay attention to even just the smallest detail. In my field, I do a lot of photo manipulating, so even just one pixel can mess up, or it'll bring someone's eye directly to that point if it's not correct. So every single pixel, every single detail is definitely important when it comes to design. So that's something I really take to heart and really pay attention to when creating something, or even just observing what others have created.
Absolutely. It's really interesting, in all of these stories that all of you have shared, the things that stick with you. Sometimes it's from, someone in college, maybe a little bit more recent, and for some people, it's something that, they learned very early on in their education. I know for me, something that my fourth grade teacher said that really stuck with me, and it's, at least to me, it's interesting because in school today, you don't necessarily talk a lot about real life application of skills like how to balance a checkbook, or what does a credit card mean and how does it work. But I remember in fourth grade, at a very young age, my teacher gave, she's like, if you never forget this, remember 80-10-10, and it was talking about budgeting, and in her words was, whenever you get a paycheck or whatever it is, you put 80% in your pocket to spend for whatever you need, 10% goes into savings, and another 10% goes to other people, or the good of others, or something along those lines. And while I don't necessarily follow that formula exactly, ever since then, especially when I got my first big boy job, if you will, that thought of budgeting and setting money aside, to whatever's most important, you set that aside first, and then everything else will go from there. It stuck with me. My teacher said it in 4th grade, and it had nothing to do with reading comprehension or whatever it is I learned back then. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those helpful quotes, especially because teachers, that's a very important part of all of our lives, is our teachers and how they have helped us. And speaking of people that are helping us, before we go tonight, we want to continue to thank our healthcare workers, our first responders, our essential workers, and of course now as school gets ready to start, we also want to thank all of our teachers for all that you do to help us move through this pandemic. So everyone, we're going to give you a round of applause. And again, sincerely, we truly appreciate you and everything that you do. We also appreciate all of you that have joined us tonight for tonight's edition of Eagle News America. We hope that wherever you are in the world, that you stay safe, that you stay well. I am Philip Toledo. We live in interesting times.